Hi, and welcome to our podcast hosted by Bette Makes for Creative Crafters. We have a really special guest today. Her name is Stephanie Paxman, and you can go to craftingintherain.com, and that will connect you with Stephanie. A little bit about Stephanie. Stephanie lives in Washington State with her husband and their 3 kids. Her blog started back in 2011. And her love for crafting, design, and blogging inspired her to go back to school and earn a degree in web design. That is so fantastic. Well, welcome, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about your company, Crafting in the Rain?
So like you said, I started my blog in 2011. We had fairly recently moved to Washington State, and we were kind of far from family. And so I was in, this new area and kind of this new stage of life where I was starting to have kids in school, and it felt like it would just kind of be a fun way to document some of the things that I was doing in our new house. Help families stay caught up with pictures of the kids. And, I think a lot of blogs started that way back in the day. People just wanted to connect with friends and family who were in different places. And this was a fairly easy way to post updates, and then it kind of grows from there. You start to people find you from the crafts that you're posting, and you get to suddenly build a network of new like-minded people.
Now, I know you're really into the Cricut crafting. So can you tell us a little bit about your Cricut journey and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I was using a Cricut even before I started blogging. I bought one of the original ones probably in, 2005 or 6, something like that. And so I had the cartridges and a little keypad where you would select the images or letters that you wanted to cut out. I was mostly doing scrapbooking and cards at the time. My kids were young enough that I was still pretty caught up with photos, and that's not something I can say currently. But yeah, I used Cricut for a while, and then I think, in the move and everything, some of those things took a little bit of a back burner. I tried a different machine for a while and just didn't really like it as much. Got back into Cricut probably around 2014 or 15. Started working with their influencer program a little bit, and uh, sometimes getting to see some stuff before it was released to the public, or get to offer some feedback or work with some competitions they were doing. So that was really fun. And yeah, I just kind of added to my Cricut collection over time. And I love hearing that someone's able to take either some of my tips or a project that I've done, and they've tried something new, or they've turned their machine back on in a long time when they hadn't. So that's always fun.
Yeah, that's the fun part. And I understand there's a fair number of people that buy the Cricut and then they just leave it in the box. They just never open it.
Yeah, it can feel intimidating. It's like it can do so much stuff that you don't even know where to start or what to pick as your first project. Or
Yeah, I think that's the hard part. Now, what's your favorite thing to make? What are you most passionate about making when you're using your Cricut?
yeah, let's see. I'm a big fan of iron-on vinyl, and I've played with a lot of different things that you can put it on other than just t-shirts. So I love doing t-shirts. It's a super easy way to, make a themed shirt for my kids, like Spirit Day. They're like, "Oh, Mom, can I have a shirt tomorrow that looks like this or has this on it?" And we can whip that up. Um, Anything like family vacations or trips, you can make stuff that matches for everybody. I've made stuff for friends for their Disney trips or family reunions. And then, like I said, I like to find other stuff that it works on too. So putting it on pot holders and pants and shoes and wood and cardstock, and just really expanding all the ways you can work with that stuff. And I find that a lot of times if it's something really skinny, it's easier to weed than just adhesive vinyl. So sometimes that's a trick if I'm doing, something with an intricate design and my base material is something that can withstand some heat, then I'll choose the HTV for it.
So where do you find your inspiration for all these designs?
Let's see. A lot of times I just come up with stuff because it's something that I'm looking to use in my next project. So I do some of my own SVG designing, but I also use stuff from the Cricut library or from Creative Fabrica. But yeah, my original designs are usually something that, okay, I want to put this on something and I can't find something that already exists that matches my vision. And so I'll, sometimes it's a matter of looking at what's out there and realizing, okay, I don't like any of these things. So it's almost like a reverse inspiration where like, okay, I don't want to pick that. I don't want to pick that. So kind of what's left over. But then, I mean, I also just love following all of my other like creative, friends that I have who are always making their designs and, not a copy, but just see like what directions are they taking and what seems kind of popular right now. So
Yeah, so basically you could take a template and then just recreate it in your own direction rather than what's there. Just use that as a basis for your inspiration.
yeah.
So you were talking about iron-on and paper crafting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been doing that for a while and I can't remember. I mean, I'm sure I must have seen someone do it, or like something gave me the idea of like, oh, I could try that. Um, and I'm pretty sure the first time that I had, some iron-on design and I just used the same settings that I would use like putting it on a shirt. So the same time, the same temperature. And it didn't burn my paper, but it kind of discolored it a little bit. And there was definitely like a line around the edge. And so as I got to thinking, I was like, oh, well, clearly I'm not trying to get glued down into the fibers of fabric. And this cardstock item is never going to go through the laundry. And so if that glue is not completely melted or completely activated like you'd want it to be on a shirt, that's okay. So then I started experimenting with, okay, lower pressure, lower time, what's kind of the minimum that I can get it to stick so that, you pull off the carrier sheet, you don't want it peeling back up off of the paper, you want it to stay, but without getting those crease marks of your press or damaging your paper at all. And sometimes it's just, oh, well, I have this color of iron-on and I don't have that color in cardstock or adhesive vinyl. So let's use that instead.
Yeah, it just makes me curious. How much vinyl do you have stockpiled?
Let's see. I mean, like these IKEA storage things have some, boxes that just fit right in there. So I have, and they'll fit like a standing up roll of vinyl. So I have one that's completely full of adhesive and another one that's completely full of iron-on. And then I have one of those like plastic 3-drawer organizers where I have a lot of flat sheets or I keep my scraps in there. So probably not as much as some people, and definitely more than some other people. So
Yeah, well, exactly. I am totally guilty of mystery box collection, and I don't.
oh, they're so fun.
They're so fun. You get the mystery box, and you get 5, 6, 7 or 8 rolls. So over 4 years, you can imagine how many mystery boxes that you can end up with.
Yeah.
But I think the big key behind it is, start creating something with them right away, or you'd be like me with 3, 4 bins of iron-on. It's iron-on, it's non-permanent vinyl, it's permanent vinyl, and all the specialty stuff. If there's specialty stuff, I go and get it. Now, there's that UV activated lately, and there's the cold activated one. I haven't tried those. Have you tried either of those?
I have not, but I've seen some cool stuff done with them. So
yeah, that sounds really like a lot of fun and where it can, and I have to tell you, you are my inspiration for a project I designed called a hug card that did the iron-on vinyl on the arms that came in part of
Oh,
the.
cute.
So that
Love
was
it.
based on your last summit you had with us, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I can iron on this. And I
Awesome.
used the mini press, so it was
Uh-huh.
it worked really well because then I could just leave it at low heat and just make sure it stuck.
Yeah.
So
Good,
that was
good.
good advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you find the most challenging as you work your blog and do your designs and going ahead with things?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, probably my first like crafty character flaw is that I am a very messy crafter. Um, I have so we're kind of lucky. We have like in our master bedroom, we have kind of this big open space. So that's the side that I have kind of claimed for all my craft things. So it's kind of the size of a small bedroom. Um, which is nice. I haven't had that in any of my other houses. And, so I've been in places where like I had a craft box and my craft box would come out and be on the table and I'd do something and put it away. Now that I have this designated space, I mean, somehow I seem to get out 3 times as many tools and supplies as I need to make my one project. And so when I'm done, there's piles of scraps on the floor and there's things on this surface and that surface. And I've already had my fun. And so I'm ready to just kind of walk away, but that means coming back to do my next thing. Number one thing is I always have to clean up whatever the last thing was. And as much as I say, oh, I'm trying to work on that, I take a look at like kind of what you can't see, what's behind my laptop screen. And there's 2 or 3 leftover projects and things that I need to. So I mean, so that's just, I don't know if everybody's like that. My husband is a very clean cook. So like he cleans up everything along the way in the kitchen. And I mean, it's the same kind of thing when I'm cooking, like the kitchen's a disaster when I'm done. I don't know. So,
Yeah, those things
so
happen.
yes, and so that would be a trial or an issue, regardless of if I was running the blog and business side of things. Um, but one thing that I think probably a lot of people relate to. So if anybody has any really great tips for me to like kind of rein in my messy craftiness, I would love to hear that. And then as far as anything else, is probably what most people would say, just kind of the balance of time of like, what's kind of next priority? Am I writing up a tutorial about the last thing that I made? Do I need to make my next thing? Do I need to send out an email to let everybody know what I just did or ask them some feedback on something? But those are sometimes the fun parts too, because that's where we get the connection. Like if I were just making all of this stuff and never able to show anybody, that would like take away a little bit of the joy for me.
Yeah, so that leads to my next question is what do you find most rewarding about what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, anytime somebody, comes back to me and says that they learned something new or they tried something that they were scared to do before, like that just makes my day and makes all of it feel worth it and makes me want to keep doing it more too, because I'm like, I have this much faith, I have this much fun making things. Everyone else should have this much fun too. Um, and so if I can help them get to that point, then I love it.
Yeah, exactly. I understand where you're coming from right there because my whole reason I love making this stuff, I have a lot smaller space. I've got half the living room.
Mm-hmm.
I live in a small apartment, so half the living room, and I would say my wingspan both sides. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall. I can pretty well touch the edges of my room,
Okay,
and
sure.
did
Yeah.
it sideways, it would be the same. So I got cameras all set up on one side. I've got my microphone and everything sitting right here. Don't think
Nice.
you can see it in the camera. My screen, I've got my shelves above and my shelves behind, and I'm constantly, and talk about messy. I mean, it's so easy to be messy, but that to me is also the fun part. So because if you're having to put stuff away all the time, you sort of lose that creativity and
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with it. So do you have any last advice for anyone just starting out different things they can do, projects they could make that would, get them over that hump. And of course, I'm going to send them to craftingintherain.com, but we're going to ask you a couple more questions about that.
Sure. Yeah, I would say anybody who's, struggling to either get started or decide what to do next. I always recommend making a card, even if you're not a card maker, or like you can't even really think of someone to send it to. Make a card, because it takes like 1 or 2 pieces of cardstock. There are a whole bunch of designs already in Cricut for making simple cards. And it doesn't take very long. So it doesn't take very many supplies. It doesn't take very much time. But then at the end, you've got this thing that you've made. And then after that, you can think of somebody to give it to, pass it on to a neighbor or your mail carrier or something. But I think those small, simple projects that give you that sense of accomplishment right away can kind of get you into whatever that next level is that you want.
And what I'm sort of hearing in the background, don't worry about making it perfect. Just, do something. People do appreciate handmade stuff, whether it's perfect or not. And I know my first cards, when I used to give them out, I was like, what are they going to think of this? And like, it's crooked, or what? They didn't. They just loved the fact that it was
no, it's
homemade.
great. And then you get something like that and you're like, I feel like you thought of me twice, right? You thought of me while you were making it, and then you thought of me when you gave it to me. And kind of going along one of the things that you just said, this is one of my favorite sayings. I don't remember where I picked it up, but I've like just really gravitated towards it. And it goes, you don't have to be good at something for it to be good for you. And I just feel like, that really kind of applies to anything, but we take it here, specifically to crafting, and like your stuff doesn't have to come out great. And it might not with your very first one, or it might. Either way, it's totally fine. But you don't have to be the best at something. You don't have to be the fastest runner or, anything like that. And it can still be good for you because of the process that you put into it, or, the benefit that it brings to you.
That is fabulous. Now, we have your website, craftingintherain.com. What other places can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, let's see. So I am pretty active on Instagram. My handle there is Steph_crafting_rain. So a little weird. And then just at the beginning of this year, I started to kind of revamp my YouTube channel and try to post consistently there. And so my YouTube is Crafting in the Rain, just like my blog.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'll look forward to your YouTube channel. I think that'll be absolutely fabulous.
Oh, thanks.
But I just want to thank you for, allowing us to talk to you and learn a little bit more about you. And for those listeners, we're talking to Stephanie Paxman, Crafting in the Rain, and we'll see you on the next episode.